everybody, and welcome to the media show on the Pod TV network. I'm your moderator, Nick Palavita, and we're going to have a very exciting panel. First of all, the person that everybody sees on the network, because you just can't miss him, with over 100 years experience in broadcasting, is none other than Mark Lee. And by the way, Jatovi's invited to come over here and continue the rowdy party that he likes to bring with him. He is going to show up. That's cool. Okay. And then, of course, we're bringing in our Mega Society member, Rick Grossner from the left coast. And then from Canada, we'll have Sasha Starr. And the person continuing the political fight of his life as his friend Joe Biden is getting pushed out of office is none other than Jatovi, leftist, beyond leftist extremist, professor of progress, Jatovi McDuffie. Yes, the progressive politician.
Hey. Yeah. Nick, did you notice something? And one, I know we're going to get to this major news that we've got and everything, but did you notice that Jatovi is supporting the wonderful world of nature today, because he's actually showing that he is a fan of climate control, a fan of our climate and everything, because he's actually coming to us from Mother Nature. He's not in his office, he's not in his car, but he's actually enjoying the wonderful world of the outside and all in that space.
No, I'm actually getting an oil change, and I figured I'd sit outside.
Oh, there we go. That at least is rational. Rick Rossner has his hand up, so he has something important to discuss.
I just wanted to follow up on a point from the previous hour where it came up right at the end that Biden, is not a genius. And we've had geniuses as presidents, and some of them have been freaking great. Some of the founding fathers, geniuses. Lincoln's probably a genius. And for sure, maybe our smartest president, Teddy Roosevelt, wrote 50 books, was just amazingly, just that guy, just a crazy, but super smart, and made a lot of positive changes for the country. But less than, genius doesn't matter. What matters is who you appoint around you. And so Biden, not, our smartest ever president, but he's appointed, probably more, he's certainly appointed more people who don't suck than Trump did. Trump surrounded himself with, crappy people. And
so, Rick, just to tag on to what you're talking about, how do we complain that, oh my gosh, Biden is not smart? I mean, the dude is a smart dude. But then we're coming off of one of the dumbest presidents in Donald Trump that has ever been. So,
Hey, hold on a second. Rick, I got a quick question for you and everything. Because I know that you are a member of a very powerful organization. I admire this organization. Sasha, for all I know, may be a member of it as well and everything. That being Mensa. But I think that it was February of last year, so about 9 months ago and everything, that there was actually somebody from Tennessee that actually earned a membership in Mensa and everything. They apparently had a 132 IQ. According to Mensa, the average IQ for a kid, his age is between 90 and 110. So how does a 5-year-old even get into Mensa? Because that's what I'm trying to figure out. Apparently in this larger society that y'all have and everything, y'all admitted somebody in that is 5 years old or something like that. He was one of
all right. Okay, I'll respond to that. But first, let me quote Stephen Hawking, a very smart guy, who said that people who brag about their IQs are losers. And I have, even though I do it myself, I have to agree with that. Mensa is full of lonely blowhard guys who are hoping for some kind of a credential that'll get them a girlfriend. It doesn't work because Mensa's like 92% guys. And how does a 5-year-old get into Mensa? There are IQ tests for kids, and they say, well, you're 5 years old, but you answered as well as the average 7-year-old. So 7 divided by 5 is 1.4 times 100, means you've got an IQ of 140. That's called a ratio IQ. There was a lady in Colorado about 15 years ago who went to somehow she got a hold of all the answers to IQ tests, and she decided to make her kid look like a super genius. She thought she could make money off of that racket. So she tutored her kid with all the right answers to an IQ test, and the kid tested out at like an IQ of close to 300. And that worked for about a year until they looked into it and saw what her scam was. So anyway, IQ's like.
Okay, I'm gonna comment on this because I know a little bit about psychometric testing, being a halfway decent chess player, and I'm gonna brag on Rick Rausner, even though he's not gonna brag on himself because he doesn't want to be, one of those people who do stuff like that. Okay, there's a big difference between Mensa and Mega. Rick is a Mega Society member. Mensa is kind of a low IQ, high IQ society. To get in there, your basically score is best 1 out of 30 people or something incredibly low like that, and you become Mensa. Mega
44.
Or is it 44? Okay. Rick is a Mega Society member. To score, you have to score 1 out of 1 million people, which is a lot harder to do. And you take these specialized tests to get there. So Rick is a Mega Society, 1 out of 1 million, as opposed to Mensa, which is like 1 out of 44. I'll correct that, which is not considered a high IQ society, by the way. Mensa is not.
Let me go back to my point that it's desperation. In my case, I was desperate to get a girlfriend, so I grew a beard to cover up that I've got a weak chin. I lifted a ton of weights because back in the 80s, like having, going to the gun show might get you a girlfriend. And in the 80s, Playboy magazine ran a feature called The Women of Mensa, which was women with high IQs posing naked. And at that point, I joined Mensa, not so I could meet those women, but I thought, well, if Playboy's running naked pictures of women, then Playgirl will almost certainly copy them and put up naked pictures of men with high IQs, and I can be in that, and I'll get a girlfriend from that. I didn't know at the time, I didn't realize that Playgirl was mostly for gay guys. And Playgirl did not run pictures of naked guys anyway. And, I mean, I eventually got a girlfriend from working in bars, but I've always been desperate to have a girlfriend, at least to the point where I got married.
To the point that you got married, and now you've got that lovely wife, and now you've got a daughter that's about to get married as well. I know that from Naked at Night and all in those places. And definitely, yeah, you're right. Some people would get Playboy or Penthouse because they wanted to look at the pictures. I had never heard of it being a gay target or anything along those lines. I was actually, as a kid, I was an avid reader, and sometimes the reading can be fun, even if you're reading about the sexuality. So I was actually a fan of Forum because Forum had great stories, but you had to use your imagination to decide if the stories were real or if they were just stories and all along those lines.
Forum was people wrote letters saying, "Dear Forum, I never thought this would happen to me, but I was, exactly. I was at my local, and then a lady came up to me, and then we did all sorts of sex things." And so, yeah.
Well, you don't need Playboy and you don't need Penthouse anymore. I have to just go to Facebook. They've turned their whole thing into a porn site anyway. So why bother?
No, that's actually Twitter.
Yeah,
Twitter's have porn now.
They're all doing the same
thing.
Well,
no, apparently there's a better one, and I've never known about this, but apparently we have, and we'll get to this announcement as well. We have a store, and apparently you can connect the store to a site that the Edge people are very familiar with as well. But Jatomi, can you tell us a little bit about OnlyFans? Because I'm thinking that this might be a site that is used by some of those folks that are in Twitch and a number of other things. Because apparently our fine friends in Edge have a OnlyFans site, and I saw that the store could set up its OnlyFans site as well. But I'm sitting there going like, I don't know even what an OnlyFans is and everything. I barely know what Twitch is. But how is this OnlyFans organized, and what is an OnlyFans, and should one have an OnlyFans site? Does Rick have an OnlyFans site, or do we need an OnlyFans chess site for Sasha?
I mean, OnlyFans is just another website that puts up, well, that is now morphed into nothing but naked pictures and naked videos. That's all OnlyFans is now. You can make money off OnlyFans. A ton of people have made tons of money off OnlyFans. It's basically it's basically a porn site now.
So 50 years ago, pornography was owned by the mob. If you wanted to make porn, you had to have a lot of, you had to be a filmmaker, and you also had to pay off the mob because they owned they'd put pressure on you. They owned the porn distribution rings. And since then, porn has been democratized. And OnlyFans is one of the things where now everybody has a camera on their phone. Everybody knows how to, get the ring light and how to pose and use filters. And so, thousands, tens of thousands.
Yeah, but Rick, Rick, I'm pretty sure that there are certain things that you don't necessarily want to see in OnlyFans, because I know even as a single man in the early 60s and everything, I don't think there are that many women. There might be a few that want to see an OnlyFans version of Mark Lee and everything. I'm pretty sure that not even his wife wants to see an OnlyFans version of Sasha Starr. I could be wrong. Maybe there's a
conversation sounds like
in an OnlyFans page.
Mark, this sounds like a personal conversation where you're considering OnlyFans and you've been searching OnlyFans to find out more information. That's what this sounds like right now.
No, not at all. I'm telling you, I don't want an OnlyFans page, and I don't think that we're going to have a chess OnlyFans page.
I saw it on our store website, and it said you can connect to OnlyFans, and I didn't even know what it was. So now you guys explain to me it's another Facebook.
It's not Facebook. So what's really interesting about OnlyFans, because Facebook actually has regulations where you cannot post nudes or anything like that. So Facebook takes that stuff down. However, what people end up doing is tagging in, yes, the OnlyFans, your Twitters, and other ones that you can actually do that to. And what's funny is that OnlyFans at one point wanted to do like Facebook and say that you cannot put this stuff on there. Well, that when they put that regulation in, I think it was last year, it was either last year or earlier this year, people started leaving OnlyFans. So then OnlyFans took that away, and that's when people said, okay, yes, OnlyFans is basically a porn site, because yes, the majority of OnlyFans content that's there are, content creators that are doing a lot of nudes and so on and everything else. But again, it's not like Facebook. Facebook actually, I'm not the biggest Facebook person, but I do have to point out, yes, there are different regulations for different social medias, and Facebook actually tries to stay above board with the porn content or the nudity and stuff.
So the OnlyFans business model, teaser model, is you put up pictures on Twitter or Insta. Here I am in a bikini. If you want to see me minus the bikini, then you got to subscribe. Also, the more beautiful somebody is, the less explicit they can get away with being. Also, there's pressure for everybody to look like an anime character. The more you look like an anime character, which is young, huge eyes, huge boobs, huge butt, teeny waist, and young,
that's called henna or henna.
Yeah, the artwork is henna and everything. Hey, Nick, I've got a question for you. This is actually, maybe Sasha will go with this since we're not going to get a Sasha OnlyFans, but we do have items on the store. So they go to podtv.tv. They will see that there is a store that's actually using a platform that I know that even Jatovi uses as well, but I think the items are through Teespring, and hopefully at some point Kim will have books among some of our authors like Barbara Smith and definitely David Walker and a number of others that can be attached, but that will be on a separate page. I don't think that'll be on the store. That might be under products and all along those lines. But definitely there are things that folks can get. They can get a mug, they can get a jacket, they can get a cup, and there are a number of other products that can be created. I think we're only up to 8. I may create some more later on this week. I did not see a chess set, so maybe we need to have a Sasha Starr chess set that is on the website. So Sasha, what are your thoughts? Are you ready for a Sasha Starr chess set that we might sell on the website as well? Because it is definitely there, and we don't have a chess set and everything. So are you ready for a Sasha Starr chess set?
Not at this point. However, with all this discussion, I'd like to point one very interesting thought. that one famous actress many years ago, she was saying why women are much more intelligent than men. And her point was that she never heard that a woman would fall in love for a man with beautiful legs. It never happened. Vice versa, a lot, but not in this circumstance. So she was obviously trying to say why generally speaking, just because of that, some other things, but that's number one. The women are much more intelligent than men. So that's something else to consider about talking about porno sites and all those images and beautiful legs and so on.
Yes,
I'd
right.
like to point out that we're currently in hell. But in the 1970s, there was a huge debate about whether porn was good because it provided an outlet for lonely men, or porn was bad because it made men sex fiends and rapey. And so they were deciding whether or not there should be porn in the world. But that war against porn has been totally lost. Porn is everywhere. Our whole social structure has been pornographied. That you hear a lot about how teens who've never had sex, when they first start having sex, they think that sex should be as it appears in porno movies, with choking and with a whole bunch of other stuff. And we're in a fallen world. The world that the 1970s feared is here, and we have to live in it with just saturated with, like, I didn't see porn until I was in junior high.
But Rick, along those same lines, and I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts, and then there's a major case, and I definitely want to hear Nick's thoughts about what I'm going to bring up. But there is, before I get to that, sometimes in the evening, I'm watching some of the old shows that are on, Criminal Minds, and a number of others, like on platforms like Ion and USA, and a number of the other shows that are networks that are choosing to show those old crime dramas and some of those old just dramas in general and everything, and even some of the sitcoms. As a matter of fact, I saw one that featured Hawaii and the whole Hawaii 5-0 theme that was a Sanford and Son episode. But within those, I have seen some commercials that in the past you would never see and everything. So there was a commercial that was actually using instead of the word associated with cats, they were using the clinical term for the women anatomy, and they were literally selling products that would have folks keep it fresh and wonderful and all in that space. And I'm going like, this is on at this was not late night. This was like 9 or 10 o'clock that I was seeing the commercial. It was around female products and all in that space.
We're
and they even used the B word.
I'm constantly saying to my wife how shocked I am at what is on primetime TV. I don't mind it because I'm a filthy guy myself, but I'm shocked. Like, we live in a much more perverse and filthy world, for good and for bad. Like the Brady Bunch. I hate the Brady Bunch because it was totally sanitized to the point where it was just insipid. But
just to push back on that, I think it's not that we lived in such a different society. I mean, there are words that are said from Sanford and Son, as you pointed out, to the Brady Bunch, to all the TV shows and movies that are out there. Heck, one of the movies, I still don't consider it a Christmas movie. It's just a movie that happened during Christmas, like Die Hard. Die Hard, we try and show our kids now Die Hard, or our kids then Die Hard. Well, do you know how bloody and how disturbing Die Hard was, but we consider it okay for kids to show at that time? Look at one of the other shows, that Macaulay Culkin show, Home Alone, all the stuff that happened on Home Alone, all the sexuality that's happened. It's not that it was so repressed back then and so pure back then. No, it was still there. All the vulgarity, all the bloody. MASH had a ton of stuff in it. So it's just a different way. We can do different things with videos today than we couldn't in the past. And as things become decentralized in terms of how you talked about with porn and so on and so forth, yeah, okay, it's there, but it's not as not there before, because You could get a Playboy at any gas station, and it wasn't covered up years before, but now it is.
Definitely get it and everything. But Jacoby, along those same lines, I am thinking about, as many folks on this show know, I am a fan of a number of musical styles, and one of them is blues music, and blues music is known for its wordplay. So yes, there were some songs that were very sexually suggestive. One of my favorite songs that I used to love playing is called "Don't Give Me No Lip," and one of the lines is that the woman is praising the guy for kissing her below the belly button and above the knees. So if anybody hears those lines, they know where that song is going and everything in that space. But there is wordplay on some of those songs, because there's another blues song that talks about a chair, and it is not talking about
you're going way down the blues road. Marvin Gaye has been dead for years. He had a #1 hit called "Sexual Healing."
Yes.
So my wife and I were watching a documentary on Little Richard. He had a hit called "Tutti Frutti."
Yes.
The original lyrics turned out, I didn't know this, it was originally about anal sex. And they're like, well, that's a catchy tune, but you need to change the words.
Okay.
Tutti Frutti, good booty. And then they talk about what you can do with the booty. No, they changed all that and replaced it with.
Well, apparently, hold on a second. Apparently, we talk about social media, and this is where I'm going to get to the social media stuff. I was watching Criminal Minds, and I forget which episode it was, but there's that nerdy character that's there that is supposed to be super smart, and he's one of the geniuses that they use in solving these crimes. And he actually even mentioned in the episode that I was watching last night that apparently It's Wonderful Life was actually about to be banned because the government at the time felt that it was encouraging communism. How It's a Wonderful Life is encouraging communism is beyond me, but apparently you can look it up, and there was a time that they were literally going to ban it because they thought it was going to encourage communism. And
because
that was
the banker is a bastard.
Yeah, that's right. And see, and this new banker that came in was going to take care of everybody. And see, that's communistic. If you're going to take care of everybody, instead you only take care of the top 1%. And see, that's pure capitalism. So they needed to ban that because the whole objective of capitalism is to take poor people and grind them into little stonies and then throw them out into the garbage can. So
that's why Nick is Scrooge. I knew Nick was Scrooge.
Oh, I love Scrooge. He was my favorite. The only problem I have with Scrooge, he gave up. He actually surrendered to the dark side. At the end, I hate the end. I turn it off before the end because it was great in the beginning, but then it kind of like fades at the end.
So, in the 1930s, which is a little before It's a Wonderful Life, there really were a ton of communists among Hollywood writers for two reasons. One is we didn't know how bad the Soviet Union was, that they were killing tens of millions of their own people. It was supposed to be a workers' paradise. Thing one. Thing two is communist ladies put out. It's like if you were in Hollywood, you'd want to go to a party where there were communists because most decent women would not have sex with you, but the communist ladies, you might get laid if you were a schlubby writer. So yeah, if you had to be like,
hey, Rick, before this horrible war and everything, wasn't that one of the #1 groups of folks that would be targeting lonely men and everything? Because I know that before the Ukrainian war, you would always see those commercials where they'd be like, this Ukrainian woman would come and be your wife and everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the world's biggest scams. Right. Our kid lives in England. If we want to send her money for tuition, you have to send a wire transfer. And to do that, you have to you have to say yes to a form that says, are you sure you're not falling for a foreign bride scam? Ukrainian brides, Russian brides, Thai brides. That's a huge, lonely guys are constantly being ripped off by.
Hey, I agree with that and everything, but I'm going to divert the conversation. This is where I was going to get to you, Nick, and everything, because apparently the First Amendment does not protect messages posted on social media platforms. So there is some new news that is coming down the pike that might be good for Pod TV. So I'm going to read the story just really quickly, and you tell me what you think. But the companies that own the platforms can and do, and we know this even from Pod TV, remove, promote, or limit the distribution of any post according to corporate policies. But all that may soon change. The Supreme Court has agreed to hear 5 cases, not 1, not 2, but 5 cases during this current term, which ends in June of next year, 2024, that collectively give the court the opportunity to re-examine the nature of content moderations. The rules governing discussion on social media platforms such as Facebook and X, formerly known as Twitter, and the constitutional limitation on the government to affect speeches on the platform. So there seems to be some conversation about there being a little bit of opening and not as much restrictions if the Supreme Court goes the way that content moderators would like, and all in that space. So what is our thoughts? Is this going to be a thing that's going to happen, and is it going to be a good thing? Because content moderation, whether done manually by company employees or automatically by a platform software, and of course that lovely algorithm affects what viewers can see on a digital media page, and messages that are promoted garner greater viewership and greater interaction. And apparently it's going to the Supreme Court, and we might be having changes around content moderation because of these 5 cases. So is this going to be good news for us? And are we going to see a lot more great content on Jatovi's Twitch channel and all in that space if they go the way that folks are hoping?
Yeah, we're gonna have to follow that one, Mark. I don't know where the Supreme Court's going to go on content moderation and freedom of speech. I kind of like our idea of freedom of speech because, if we don't like Jatovi, we just go like this, goodbye, Jatovi, and he disappears. So far it works out.
Because it's a privately, those companies, those social media companies are privately owned, which means they don't have to follow the First Amendment. They can say, if they don't like what you're saying, they can kick you off or censor you.
Right now, that is true. In other words, the thing is, Facebook, I have been destroyed by Facebook twice. Once I had 4,000, 5,000 followers, which isn't even close to what Mark has. He's got like 20,000 on LinkedIn. But 4,000 or 5,000. And Facebook, sua sponte, just, snapped their fingers and killed me. And then I started bringing up another group of following, and they did the same thing. I have no legal recourse against
them. But apparently that's what this case is about. And ironically, one of them is coming from California, because in one of those cases, O'Connor Radcliffe versus Garnier, 2 school board members from the Poway Unified School District in California, blocked a set of parents who frequently posted repetitive and critical comments on the board members' Facebook and Twitter accounts from viewing the board members' account. So that's one of the cases. And then the other case heard in October, Limke versus Freed, the city manager of Port Huron, Michigan, apparently angered by critical comments about a posted picture, blocked a constituent from viewing or posting on the manager's Facebook page. So it sounds to me like they're going to change some of these private rules that were going on.
I hope they don't. I hope that they still leave it up to the companies, the private entities themselves, to basically monitor and control, but make sure that happens, monitor and control what's on there. You open this Pandora's box, which people don't consider or even think about. People from 4chan don't go on Facebook. The reason when Elon Musk started complaining that he wanted this whole freedom of speech thing and all, which ironically he was banning people saying good things about Tesla or things about himself, to talk about his freedom of speech champion. But the thing is, when he took over Twitter, racist and just a ton of bad things started popping up. And we forget, if we open this Pandora's box and take a platform of a Facebook that has billions of people, that has a billion people on that platform, that means those same plans people that they have blocked now have that platform and can utilize it to recruit, to promote messages, and push out other things out there, from Islamophobia to anti-Semitic things. This is a problem. That's why I hope that they do not change it, because of that fact. You do not have the right to go on Facebook. It's just not right.
And as long as there's multiple outlets and you have competition, there's okay. So like LinkedIn, for the last 3 years that we've done Pod TV, has been great for us. LinkedIn doesn't ban us. They put on our shows. They don't complain. But Facebook, on the other hand, has been horrible. Same with YouTube. But guess who owns them? They're these big mega companies. But of course, LinkedIn's the same way. But because you have different behaviors, you can say, okay, I don't even bother to broadcast through Facebook anymore. I just give up on them. To me, they're a soft porn site. That's all they are. I don't really care about them. I beam a lot through LinkedIn because LinkedIn's been great. Facebook isn't. Yeah, right.
So you might have seen in the news that a guy just got arrested for shooting 3 Palestinians on the street in America. He just drove up to them because they were wearing the keffiyehs and just went pow, 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 pow. And, and there's a thing called stochastic terrorism. And it's where if you spread hateful messages, the U.S. has 1/3 of a billion people. And that's a lot of people, which means there are a lot of crazy people. And if you throw hateful messages at crazy people, some of them are going to go commit acts of violence.
Yeah.
And that's what stochastic means, just kind of random. You don't know who's going to go shoot Palestinians or Jews or drive a car into a crowd of people, but probably somebody will, just because America's a huge country. And the Twitter now, once Musk took it over, is full of, stuff like Hitler was right and we need to, finish the job he started. And, a lot of that is like 12-year-old kids being a-holes for fun. But some of it is people who are seriously dangerous.
Well, even the even scarier part to touch on is not only that, again, opening this Pandora's box. Bots have always been a part of every social media platform. It doesn't matter if it's Facebook, Twitter, Mastodon, whatever. Bots are always there. With the technology advancements in AI and ChatGPT and all this other stuff, bots become much more influential. Matter of fact, they did a story about, there was one lady on Twitter who was legitimately a bot, and she was pushing out, or they were pushing out, super extreme liberal positions, and she had over millions of followers. But it turned out the individual that the bot took the name from was an actual Republican that really didn't even go on social media. So if you open that Pandora's box and the way this technology is going and how people fall into these bubbles and don't want to sit there and listen to anything outside of it, yeah, it's only going to get worse. It's going to get horrible.
So we talked about how the Soviet Union, would send like honeypots. A honeypot is where, a hostile country sends sexy people over to use sex to entice people to become communists or whatever. So Russia's been, Soviet Union, they've been doing this for 100 years. But now they don't have to send actual people. They can there's a building in St. Petersburg that just pumps out social media propaganda. And they've
the troll farm.
Yeah, for over the past 10 years, they've spent $300 million. Russia has $30 million a year, which is cheap because they have made tens of millions of people in all the Western democracies believe crazy bullshit and made Western democracies just angrier and more willing to embrace like strongman leaders. The social media has been a gift to Russian propagandists.
Well, there's a couple of things about social media. One is sometimes I think that, and you kind of alluded to it, Toby, and everything, that some people get things that they see as being cool, but don't necessarily know even the significance of it. And all along those lines, I think I mentioned it on this show and definitely some of our other shows. How many folks before the pandemic did we see running around with both Malcolm X shirts and Che Guevara shirts and everything? But if you ask them who those individuals were or a little bit about their narrative, they had no clue. It was just a cool shirt that their friends thought was cool and hip, so therefore they wore it, but they didn't know anything about the Black nationalism of Malcolm X or some of his other historical parts of his narrative, or definitely didn't know anything about Che Guevara and what he had done in Latin America, but it was just a cool thing to have. But there was some good news, and I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts, and maybe even Sasha and Nick has got some thoughts about this as well. But we talked about the negative impact of social media on our kids and everything, but apparently there is a pushback on this, because apparently one of the younger generations, I think it's called Generation Z, is actually turning away from their social media because they are finding that it is addictive. So young people are saying that their mental health has improved since shunning and leaving the social media. So Iwan Kellett from a group called Agency said constant negativity on the platforms was affecting him, and he feels better since taking a break. It comes as research shows a quarter of respondents felt anxious due to the noise of the constant notifications. So Gen Z people, who are those born between 1996 and 2010, so actually both of my nephews would fall in that category, are most likely to say that social media impacts their well-being, and that is what research is showing. So we might see some of these young folks that are turning away from their social media, even though my nephews, and they're playing with their Oculus this last Thanksgiving, they were not part of that trend.
I think that's a rarity, just because the good thing about social media is the same. One of the other positives about online gaming, there is that social connection. We are social beings. We need that connection, and social media provides that connection, and it's easy to jump on. But again, there's just, as long as it's monitored. But right now, yeah, I think that's a rarity. That, you know, people,
even this particular student, he was a student, the one I quoted and everything, is a student at a university called Cardiff, and he said that social media was an important way for him to connect with his friends and stay in touch with his friends, but he decided to go on detox because I could see the negativity social media was putting into my head, and the one that took up most of my time was TikTok, and he described it as quite addictive, really difficult to put down, and all he could see was these negative stories. So there are some folks that, like you said, might be the rarity and not the norm.
Rick, you might like this. Remember, there's actually an episode of Black Mirror that talks about it, which is, you know, they had to pedal for their ability to get by ads so they could watch what they wanted to watch.
I remember that episode.
It's addictive. Well. Black Mirror, great series on Netflix. You have people. It's about how it's set in the near future for the most part, and it's about how all our technologies are wrecking us. And 2/3 of Americans are overweight because food science has made food super delicious. If you look at the food of the 1940s, it was gross. Corn in jello and like noodle pie. And then since then, you know, everything is frickin' Jack in the Box, delicious. Every Taco Bell, delicious, and not expensive. Same with social media, delicious, irresistible, addictive. And I've talked about it before, but today's teens and people in their 20s have 25% less sex than teens and 20-year-olds did 50 years ago, because social media is so addictive and attractive, and other forms of streaming entertainment are so awesome that people don't need to turn to sex anymore.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I will say that honestly, about the making it addictive, I mean, that the saddest part is that social media is doing the same thing that marketers do. So way back, so before social media and the mass movement to the internet, remember, if you went to a grocery store and bought something, a week or two later, the marketing ads would be catered to what you purchased. And so that technology has been around, and yes, social media has just taken advantage of it, made it a lot more addictive. I don't know about a sex thing though. That could be there. I'll leave that to Rick.
That sounds like a Rick thing and everything, but along those
I'm just saying that the 70s were a horny time, and everything, nothing was fun except for sex. Not that I got to have sex, because I was nerdy.
There's some horny toads. There's some horny toads that even exist in the 21st century. There is a city that is known somewhat for its horniness and all along those lines. And I'm actually going to praise, or maybe not praise, because I don't know them personally, their mayor, and maybe Sasha and Nick have some thoughts around this, but there is a city that is known for romance, that being Paris, and apparently their mayor there in Paris, France, quit X because she is calling social media site a gigantic social global sewer. That is what she is calling X and all of that stuff. So Anne Hidalgo, who is the definitely opponents have used the platform to criticize her, cited disinformation and anti-Semitism as the reasons that she is leaving that particular site. So she is definitely
X is a sewer, right? X is a sewer right now, an anti-Semitic sewer, and there's a bunch of other garbage there because Musk decided to fire 80% of the people who looked for bigoted, racist messaging on Twitter, and so it's not hard to stumble upon horrible messages. Like there are these drawings that come from Nazi Germany of Jews, big hook nose, stubble, receding hairline, sitting with gobs of money, going to steal your babies and use them to make, matzah, just horrible messages. And it's hard to get them removed now.
Yeah, and that's actually what Hidalgo said. I think I'm pronouncing the last name correctly, but she said that Twitter, far from being the groundbreaking medium that initially made information accessible to the greatest possible number of people, has in recent years become an impressive tool for destroying our democracies. And she said the platform intentionally exacerbates tensions and conflicts. She did have an interesting idea. It might work in Durham. It might even work there in Canada. But apparently her opponents were getting on her case and everything because she wants to transform Paris into a cycling capital. So maybe they're going to have this whole notion of a bunch of bicyclists traveling around Canada and around Paris. And I know that even on the Modern Investment show, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sasha, but I think Milan talks about how a lot of these spaces in Canada have seen an uptick in cycling, and he was actually praising that and all along those lines. Am I correct in remembering that part of the narrative that Milan gives us on the Modern Investment, where he talks about that rise in bicycling there in Canada?
Yeah, okay. Milan obviously knows a thing or two about this subject. I'd like to comment on Paris being sex capital of the world. I think it has a healthy chance to be one, simply because it has the largest number of Russian and Ukrainian prostitutes, and they are doing fantastic business. They are beautiful. They are coming as close as possible to images of Facebook or Instagram and so on. Because you see, the problem is with regular sex, whatever you can get, one, that if you meet a woman in a real life, she will be next to nothing to all these glorious prostitutes and girls from Instagram, Facebook, or so on. You won't even touch her. You won't even be interested even to have a 5 minutes conversation with her, because it's a waste of time. Because you're spending your precious time on talking to somebody who cannot interest you, even in the best case scenario, unless, as I said, she's a high qualified call girl from Paris, preferably Russian and Ukrainian. And so that's where the future of a sex capital of Paris, or some other cities who would have a healthy number of this, let's call them sex workers. And they can do quite well. And this Paris will be a very attractive place to visit. And a lot of people exactly do that.
Hey, Sasha, what about Amsterdam? I've never been there. Like I said, I've not done enough global travel, but I do have friends that love going to the Netherlands and going to Amsterdam, because apparently a lot of things, whether it is drugs or sex, are very legal in that area. They maybe don't have as much regulations, and definitely apparently you can get it's like a shopping cart. You can pretty much get what you want. And I don't know that, and maybe a lot of the Russians and Ukrainians are also heading to the Netherlands as well. But I do know that historically I've heard that being a wonderful place that people may want to go to because of its supposed freedom and the accessibility that you have to a number of things, including some things that I do not necessarily want to be part of in terms of the drug culture and everything. But if that's people's things that they want to get into, apparently that is a very popular area.
So Amsterdam, you walk down the red light district in Amsterdam, and women have little apartments with an open front, the window that's open to the street, and they sit there in lingerie. And if you like what you see, you can go, transact at the, that's their business. So the golden age of prostitution was the first half of the 20th century because nice girls didn't have sex. And so a lot of men turned to prostitution. There was no social media, there wasn't a lot of porn, and people would turn to actual real people, women who were fallen women who would take the risk of, it was risky to have sex because of venereal disease, pregnancy, abortions weren't easily available. And so, prostitutes were, professional sexual risk takers. Then in 1960, the pill came along and offered the chance to have safer sex for everybody, and sex was democratized over the next couple decades. Nice girls were able to have sex with less risk because of the pill.
Not just the regular pills. Go ahead.
I just want to mention, don't forget that in countries like Germany, a lot of girls were working out to get their dowry ready for the marriage through prostitution. And it was a very normal thing because otherwise they wouldn't be able to collect enough money to assure that they would have dowry for their marriage. So that, especially Peel made it very, very real, attractive, and safe.
But not just the pill, but isn't there in the more recent times what they call the morning after pill? So if you've had the sexual relationship and you don't necessarily want to have the child and everything, that there is the morning after pill, and I'm sure there are other versions of that exist that allow you to have don't have to have the responsibility of the possibility of a kid, because either I think in most cases it's the women, but I think there are some modern day advances that the man can take things beforehand that might lower the sperm count and all in that space. But definitely it is some modern technology that is out there that can make it easier to have these relationships without the quote unquote consequences and all in that space, if I'm remembering correctly.
Well, remember that these girls, like in Germany, they wanted to have sex, no babies. So obviously they had to be very mindful how they do it, which way they are doing, how to protect themselves, and so on. It's they were definitely very knowledgeable and very experienced in that.
Well, social media has also made my friends and I in the 70s were just dopes about sex. We didn't know anything about girls, about sex. We wanted to, but it was harder to get information. Clinton had a surgeon general who had to resign because she told teens to think about masturbating instead of sex. She goes, you guys should, consider, and, there was a national uproar and she had to quit. But with more information, everybody knows there are ways to have sex without getting pregnant.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely agree with you on that. Hey, Nick, this is raising an interesting possibility, and all along those lines, because we were talking about the story at the beginning, I was actually going to mention this to Sasha before I get to the kind of jokey comment that I was going to make as well and everything. But apparently, social media is becoming a way for franchises to be hunted as well, because that was one of the other was a number of people are using social media as a way to find their opportunities into the franchise market, whether that is going to get a big franchise like a McDonald's or some of these smaller telemarketing franchises. So a lot of people are using social media as a way to even find franchises that they might want to invest in and all along those lines. But what I was going to ask you, Nick, since you're the one of the two bosses, I know Kim would have to approve it as well. Since we've got this story, and since Rick took this whole conversation down this sexual notion and all along these lines, are we going to have sex toys on the Pod TV store and all along those lines? Because I think that there could be some tremendous money that could be made in that space.
Okay. And anyway, I went to visit the Pod TV store because, in case you don't know, let's say we have a store. You go to podtv.tv and you'll see the store. And I purchased some items to see if it'll work. And then, so Kim tells me, oh, here's the thing. Go ahead and put some more items on it. So I put all these other items on it. None of them showed up. Okay. So apparently there's some button that I still have to push to even get those items on. I don't know. Apparently there's some company that puts all these things together. It's kind of an interesting concept.
And it's a company that I think that Jacoby has used before, and maybe he can tell us a little bit about it. I actually found out about it through.
Yeah, but I don't know how to link it yet, Mark. Mark, I developed all these new products. I got them together. They sent me the website. But I don't know how to link it to our website. So she knows how to do it, because I do know there's some products. If you go to podtv.tv, go to the store, you can actually buy products on it. How to put products on it, that's a whole nother cat.
We'll get that going and everything. But Jacoby, really quickly, because I know that Brandon, who has been on our network before, has used it. There are a number of other people that have used it as before, but we are using Teespring, and I think you've used Teespring as well. So your thoughts around Teespring as a store, because that is the nature of the company that we're using this particular time. And I think you've got some Teespring products even on your personal Bull City gaming site and everything. So any thoughts around Teespring as a store?
I mean, Teespring is just fun. It's an easy startup for a lot of people who have it or are just starting out on the marketing stuff. There are some other ones that are out there. It's not too hard actually to get it linked to a website, because they have the URLs that you can plug into the code of the website, be it either in WordPress or wherever you want to. So you can tie it in that way. But Mark, when you were going down the road of bringing it back to sex and all this other stuff, and then you said that I've got one of the owners of the network here, and I was just going to make sure we can approve it by the other owner, I thought you were going to say that we were going to create an OnlyFans where Nick and Kim were going at it. I was a little worried.
I don't know this OnlyFans stuff. This is you're talking. We're using a thing, Jacoby, called Spring.
Yeah, so Teespring became Spring. They did that actually the end of last year. So Teespring and Spring are the same thing. So you can actually type in teespring.com and it still takes you to Spring. They just changed it.
They go, you're on a roll. The Pod TV hoodie is ready. But for some reason, then I'll have to figure out what you have to do to link it to our website so people can buy the hoodie on the website. There's some other hoodies on our website. But like I said, this whole thing is new to me. But anyway, Rick, you had a comment.
Yeah, so the internet has turned everybody into a small business person. You got Etsy, right. You have eBay, OnlyFans, Uber, wherever they all make it easy to, kind of have a small business on the side. We have the lowest unemployment in 60 years. So everybody has a job or a side job, but the economy is such that nobody makes enough from any of these jobs. In the 50s, you'd have these single job households. The dad goes to work, makes enough money. I mean, not everybody had this, but it was the dream lifestyle. It was the sitcom lifestyle. Dad goes to work, mom stays home, but now everybody needs a ton of these little half jobs to come close to making it.
Well, the thing is, there's some groups of people that make a lot of money, though. See, we have changed into what I call a winner-take-all economy, and it exists in chess. And Sasha knows. So if you ever go play in a chess tournament, the guy who wins first takes home all the money, and everybody else is taking peanuts home, if anything. And so chess is a winner-take-all economy. It's been that way for years. So 100 people enter in a tournament. The top 3 people get paid. The first guy makes all the money. Next 2 do okay, and everybody else goes home broke. The U.S. economy is evolving into that, where if you're on the top, you're a Taylor Swift, you're a Beyonce, you're Travis Kelce, you're at the top of your game. Doesn't matter what game it is, you're top of whatever. You make all the money, and everybody else eats hot laser dust. That's the U.S. economy.
But that's capitalism.
That's the
That's
capitalism.
what
That's the
pisses me
U.S.
off about
economy.
game shows. You go on Chop, you get these people have worked on their. All right.
We are in an economy. The winner takes all the bacon, and you're seeing it in the demographics. 70% of everything is owned by 10% of the population. Rick, 10% owns.
I've worked on a bunch
bottom
of
40% don't own anything in terms
But Nick, that's actually what they've sold us. Remember, that's capitalism. That's what they've said. Capitalism works. That's capitalism.
Capitalism, and I'm so against Ronald Reagan's whole idea. You know, we used to have an income tax of 90% if you made over $1 million. His complaint was, well, then I'm not going to work anymore. And he shouldn't. If you make over $1 million and that's equivalent to making 10 million, you should retire. Give the younger generation a chance to come and take your place. Do you know in the United States of America, the younger generation does not have a chance to take your place because these old people take these positions and they never let go, like Donald Trump, Joe Biden, just to name a few. And that's the realities of it today. Yeah, Sasha, I'm lighting up.
Nick, remember there was a famous late Grandmaster by the name Samuel Reshevsky.
Of course.
At one time, he was probably one of the top
players in the world. Yep.
1 year, actually, he was on the top of the world, at least according to the rating, which hadn't existed yet at the time, but there was a special site. I think it was, I forgot the name of the site, Spitronics or something, but it doesn't matter, I'll remember that. Yeah. What's important is that he was in real life, he was an accountant. And he was making pretty good living as an accountant. And here comes the great difference between chess and accounting, for example. You see, in chess, you're right. Absolutely. People on the top taking 97% of everything. Third something, whatever is left. And all the rest are free to go home and do whatever they're going to go. They can go to Paris to have sex or anything like that.
Whatever.
About chess. Now, what's interesting, though, in accounting, or like in many professions, okay, here is a lousy second-grade encounter. Okay, he's making probably an average $50,000 a year, maybe 55. Yeah. But he's able to do a fairly simple income tax return. So somebody will pay you, I don't know, $50 for that, maybe 100, some miserable stuff. So he will, at the end of the day, he'll do so many individual income tax returns, which doesn't require any talent or any special knowledge or anything like this. And he'll make some kind of money so that he can feed his family. Okay, in chess is impossible because unless you're on the very top, you will not be able this $50. Okay, here's your game. Okay, you lost your game in 35 moves. So you want to what? You want to get paid $10 or $15 for your losing game? Absolutely not. Zero. Go away. And there are so many people like that they're working so hard, but they're losing. They're losers. So there's no rewards for losers in chess. In accounts, there are some rewards, but not in chess.
Hey, but Sasha, and I know we're going to wind down, but Rick, along those same lines and everything, there is something that people were predicting for a while, and it looks like it might be getting ready to happen because a lot of people, you just mentioned her earlier, the lovely Taylor Swift, and some people, when she got together with Travis Kelce, were saying that this was going to lead to a song, and apparently there are already rumors or rumblings of the breakup already happening, so we can expect the Travis Kelce song in the near future. So I've heard this, Rick. So are you hearing the same thing in California that they're already?
I haven't heard it. There's been some like excitement about her set list. I mean, but like I don't know about. I hope they don't break up. I like them as a couple. I want them to have enormously tall kids. But if you watch Antiques Roadshow, they run old episodes. 2008 was the peak of antiques prices in America because back then, remember, the economy collapsed because lenders were making it too easy for anybody to own a house. There was the whole home loan scam. More people owned houses probably in 2007 than ever before or since. And so people needed to fill their house with antiques. If you look at the big furniture on Antiques Roadshow, they show what it was worth in 2008 for an antique armoire compared to now. Now that stuff is worth a third of what it was worth 15 years ago because young people don't have houses. They can't afford houses. And if you don't have a house, you have no place to put your antique armoire.
Yeah, but here's an interesting stat because in my pension business, we work all over the country, so I have to watch the numbers. In where you live in Southern California, two interesting stats. Number one, 10% of people in LA County make more than $200,000 a year. So 10% are doing okay. But here's the big one. Even though they have the highest real estate prices in the United States, 33% of all homes in Southern California are bought all cash deals. In other words, in Southern California, which by the way, we do more business in Southern California than any other place in the country, they have, the rich have a lot of money, and then there's everybody else. And with that, we'd like to thank our guest, and we will see you next week on the media show. Be in the 1%, and you'll do okay.
And if you can, play that video.